My name is Andrew Eucles, wildlife expert and survivalist, and my mission in life has been to bring you closer to nature in a way that has never been done before. Now let me show you what it takes to become wild. Join me on a wild journey into the unknown, meeting industry professionals and inviting you into the secret world of nature. Hold on, Chuchi. This is going to be a hell of a ride. We're all born wild, but it's a choice to be tame. The south coast of Australia is home to some of the most spectacular reefs and offers a diverse new world for divers to explore the unique and bizarre creatures which call our ocean waters home. But not all our creatures are cuddly. In fact, most of them have defence mechanisms to prevent them from being predated upon, like the Tetrodontidae family, which includes this species right here.
Oh! He's actually really heavy, he's like a bowling ball. Now, this guy here, guys, is known as the pufferfish or fugu. And believe it or not, the toxins inside of this guy are 1,200 times more toxic than cyanide. And if that already wasn't a problem, trying to consume him, being like this so rounded with these sharp spikes is obviously going to be impossible. Now, what they'll actually do as a defensive measure is it's actually not oxygen that's puffed up inside of him. He's actually breathed in as much water as he can. He hasn't breathed it in, he's actually consumed it into his stomach. And his stomach allows him to do that because it's actually quite elastic, and you can just see he's now filtering some of that water out.
A word of caution. Never handle a pufferfish without protective gloves. The skin and spikes are also known to carry the deadly tetrodotoxin. Now, whenever I come across this species known as the carpet shark, I know I'm searching the right habitat for octopuses. The carpet shark is a nocturnal, bottom-dwelling species that is commonly found in rocky areas and seagrass beds of the intertidal zone. This species is one of the major predators of the octopus, and his cunningness may be the reason why the octopus has developed so many strategies to avoid him. An octopus den is usually situated under a rock or within an ocean platform crevice. When pursued, the octopus will defend itself by shielding rocks as a barricade between the predator and itself. But if caught out in the open, this is where the octopus is genius. Using jet propulsion, it darts with high speeds through the water, often leaving an ink cloud behind. But when it touches the surface, it becomes virtually invisible. It does this by changing the colour of its skin to blend perfectly with the surroundings. Focusing my attention on a larger specimen, I've spotted him blending into the seaweed, and he's not going to go without a fight. Now, this guy here is going to be perfect for the octopus bite experiment. To be honest, I'm a little bit scared of what's going to happen. You just never know, Church.
Ready! Alright, let me just bring him up. Now, let me get on there. On these rocks like a seal. Right, guys. Now this guy here is known as the common Sydney octopus, and he's not letting go of me. And he's actually part of the class of cephalopods like the squid and the cuttlefish. But today, what I'm going to be finding out is whether or not an octopus can bite, because they do have a beak, and a big one at that. All right, mate, let's see how we go. Well, Church, if I'm going to give you any kind of introduction, it would be this. This guy here is an absolute intertidal predator. And being a predator, he's obviously got prey consisting of fish and crustaceans. So naturally, you would assume that he'd be able to get into their thick skin. Now, this is where the test comes into play, and I'm just going to already taken off my top part, just going to take off this lower part. The idea is to put the octopus on my chest, wait for some time, and see if he bites. Now, there's definitely a beak there, and it's actually embedded in what they call the buccal mass, which is right at the center point of that muscular tissue. And from what I've read, that beak is harder than most polymers. So you would assume that if it could bite you, you're going to be in a lot of pain. And now we're going to find out. And hopefully there's not a blue-ringed octopus in here either. Okay. Right, so I've placed him on my chest, and I've got a number of questions. And it's, if this animal has a beak, a bit like a parrot, you would assume that he would bite, right? Not to mention that he's got a lot of prey items that he consumes that have very hard shells, like your crabs and your lobsters of such. So having a hard beak kind of makes sense. And I do know for a fact that the blue-ringed octopus bites, because that's the way in which it injects its venom. Now there's a song I remember hearing, and it's funny because as I sit here in intertidal pools, they actually make me quite nervous. Reason being is, well, it's a home of the blue-ringed octopus, it's a home of the moray eel, and there's a song that comes to mind, and it goes like this. If you're out in the sea and something bites your knee, it's a moray.
Well, it's hard to open conversation on a date with what I've done today, but at least you're going to have an answer by the end of this experiment.
All right, Church. So I've got a verdict. We've had the time lapse going and going and going. And look, ultimately at the end of the day, octopuses must be able to bite, because how on earth would they be able to consume their prey, right? But for a predator such as me, I think there's other alternate ways that they will avoid conflict. They're not going to bite, merely they just want to try and get away and hide. Even though I've had him on me for a solid 10 minutes almost, this guy here is actually quite complacent.
I believe ultimately the intelligence of this animal opens up a new dimension of thought. Perhaps it feels my presence as being curious and not predacious. Perhaps there is more going on in its behaviour that we just don't know anything about. There are many mysteries out there in the ocean, with each one waiting to be discovered. The ocean truly is a dimension which has been least explored.
G'day mate, my name's Andrew Eucles and I'm the owner and operator of Eucles Wild Tours. To find out how you can become part of Australia's wildest experience, come find me at eucleswildtours.com.